And hello and welcome to AleksConnects Creative Sandbox making WWE Superstars art. My name is Alex and we need to check out the camera a little bit. It works fine. Or not. Yeah, so we continue, and by the way, does it lag? No, there's not lagging. And so, yeah, today we will continue with WWE Superstars art session number 10. Previous stream was cut short. It was pretty bad. I mean, I never started to do things during yesterday's stream, unfortunately, because I got super, like, I don't know. It was super laggy for some reason. Apparently, it turns out that it was because of the Windows update. So after a cumulative update or whatever, some type of security update, something basically got broken with Krita and within the drivers, and I spent the whole freaking night instead of sleeping. So I'm pretty bad at this point in terms of my mind. I mean, I slept a couple hours only. I spent the whole night trying to solve the problem of lagging in Krita, and it took me like a lot of time, and that was kind of disappointing a little bit. So hopefully today we will finally start working, but again, as per usual, we're going to quickly go and overview the end of the WWE week, and then we will continue. So check the sound and start. We're going to quickly go and works. So yep, let's just do exactly that. So again, we will start with WWE review, or not review, but basically a quick overview of the thing. So we're going to start with 205 Live. So the first thing, that Buddy Murphy wasn't present on 205 Live. I actually kind of wanted him to enter the 205 Live and turn things upside down and basically make things super awesome, but it didn't happen instead, because again, they gave him a little bit more promotional time in Australia. They did the same for Asuka. They did the same for almost every type of international championship holder that is not related to USA, to spend a little bit more time in the first week in their country, basically. So they did the same with Buddy Murphy, I guess. Cedric Alexander basically lost the title, and the whole 205 Live was kind of cool. I mean, but the best thing on this week was, of course, NXT, as always, sometimes. So yeah, let's start. So with 205 Live, we saw a match with Lindsay Dorado versus Lio Rush, and it was interrupted by disqualification when Maria Kanellis entered the ring, which was kind of unpredictable because, like, come on, I never saw her coming here there. And of course, after that, Mike Kanellis got interfered. And now we actually put Mike Kanellis into a 5 roster. It's not probably official, but I believe he actually going to be on 205 because again, it's better. It's better than for him to be on 205 Live than to be on Raw and never appear on TV. So again, every TV time, it's a good time. Doesn't matter where are you. So in your career. And of course, Mike Kanellis, and he never got pushed since he arrived at SmackDown. So with Maria, he just didn't get a chance because then Maria got pregnant and he stopped. They stopped push, and that's it. So yeah. Either way, now they're back, and hopefully they will bring a little bit more dynamic to 205 Live, which reminds me the dynamic that Alicia Fox brought at some point when she interfered in matches with Cedric Alexander, at that time Rich Swann, and a couple of more, and probably Noam Dar. Yeah. By the way, we could delete those guys from here. I believe they're already an alumni, so yeah, I will remove from here at some point. So yeah, sorry, today I'm going to be super bad, and because in English, and I'm not going to like say thoughts clearly and provide my thoughts clearly, because again I slept so not much that my brain is basically kind of shut down. So yeah, then we saw Buddy Murphy interview, like a small video that he's in Australia and he will be back on 205 Live next week. Cedric Alexander also had a moment with Mustafa Ali. Again, it's a shame that Ali is not fighting. I guess they just giving him a little bit more time to recover. Ali kind of tried to say, Cedric, that you're not ready to fight against Tony Nese because your head is still in the match against Buddy Murphy, and you're kind of distracted a little bit. So Cedric didn't listen, and it resulted in him losing in the main event to Tony Nese. We also saw a weird message from Drew Gulak and Jack Gallagher, because again, remember last week they dropped Brian Kendrick from their team, and right here they just explained the reason why, because he became too sentimental and he basically lost the ruthless aggression or whatever, and he's not like working with their tag team. I don't know where exactly it's going to be, where exactly it will lead, but it's fine. And it sums up 205 Live, because again, there's nothing happening in 205 Live usually. Again, the cool thing is that Maria now there, potentially, and Mike Canales, maybe they will bring something interesting. And of course, the fact that Buddy Murphy is now champion will definitely bring a lot of things. And by the way, talking about Tony Nese, he kind of impressive. Since Neville left the company, he kind of now like doing a 455 splash or whatever. So he basically kind of, again, Tony Nese and Neville have a pretty, like, you can compare them together, although Neville much better than Tony, but still, Tony is kind of fine too. I mean, of course, if you will compare them, Neville 100% better, but again, Tony is more than capable of holding his own ground, and he actually kind of showed us last couple of weeks of pretty awesome matches. They showed pretty awesome matches with Cedric in main event of 205 Live. Last week he thought on NXT, which was pretty cool too. So again, Tony is definitely kind of can deliver pretty awesome matches. He is pretty awesome athlete, and besides that, he is pretty good at storytelling during the match. He's pretty bad on microphone, but again, he needs to learn and he needs to kind of study how to work with microphone. But again, 205 Live not necessarily works with talking, they're more action-oriented show. So yeah, let's go to the NXT. So at NXT, we saw... NXT, by the way, was freaking awesome. That was the best NXT kind of in last couple of weeks. I mean, it started in an awesome fashion, and it ended in an awesome fashion. Usually, this type of these type of shows, I am respecting the most. Like, I love the most. When show starts with high energy and super anticipation and awesomeness, and adds with the same awesomeness. And like lately, NXT usually provides us with pretty awesome main event, but the beginning of the NXT not necessarily a good one, or somewhere mediocre, but this was the kind of an awesome NXT personally. So it started with Ciampa entering the ring and basically telling the world that he's the best and he has the best music in the world, the entrance music. By the way, his entrance music is freaking awesome. I mean, like, it's actually pretty awesome. So yeah. Then he got interrupted by the Dream, the Velveteen Dream, and they kind of threw a couple of awesome lines between each other. That was pretty awesome. Again, they have awesome dynamic that basically shows that Tommaso Ciampa is awesome on the mic. We already know that Velveteen Dream can talk and can kind of create this presence. With Tommaso Ciampa now, it's much more evident, and Dream Ciampa is definitely going to be an awesome feud. So... sorry. Again, I'm not feeling well. So my voice is kind of dry too because of the fact that I slept couple of hours only. So then for some reason Nikki Cross got involved, and it was freaking awesome. I mean, it definitely created a pretty unique dynamic. People started to yell that like triple threat, like Nikki is going to be a part of the championship match with Velveteen Dream, Tommaso Ciampa, and Nikki Cross is going to be there as the triple threat. Kind of an interesting mixed triple threat, which is pretty cool. But again, of course they're not going to do that, no matter how you would want that. It's pretty awesome that Nikki Cross is so popular at this point in NXT. She, with her kind of insanity, definitely creates an awesome dynamic. She involved in almost everything regarding NXT. She involved in main events, she involved in her own main event against Bianca Belair, which is going to transpire next week, along with Raiders against the Attitude Era for the Tag Team Championships. Yeah, the NXT Tag Team Championships. So overall NXT right now is like actually on top for me personally in terms of the show. This is something that I watch and I'm waiting throughout the week with anticipation. And it was like that for a long time already, but right now things are super awesome at NXT. So again, we still don't know who actually attacked Aleister Black. I truly believe that this is it was Cassius Ohno. I don't believe that WWE necessarily knows who exactly attacked Cassius Ohno yet. It all depends what type of storytelling they're going, what type of booking they're working with, and who is the booker out there. If Triple H makes decision what to deal with superstars, then he might kind of create a little bit more longer story. If someone like random, I don't know who exactly works with this, it might not be kind of still clear. But again, I believe that Aleister Black got attacked by Cassius Ohno, and this is kind of the most awesome thing that I would want, because everyone, like Lars, no thanks, Tommaso, why, Dream, I don't know. I believe they were involved in the Aleister Black attack. Maybe there's even going was it some type of an alliance? I don't know. But in most cases, in terms of the storytelling, the only thing that will help Cassius Ohno to kind of transform and actually go into the main event of the NXT at some point and actually finally get to a takeover is him turning into heel and fighting against Aleister. There definitely will show us an awesome classic match. So yeah. What else? So and again, Cassius Ohno was kind of pissed off at William Regal because William Regal doesn't see Cassius Ohno as a threat, and it kind of already tells us that it might be some type of a build-up towards the Cassius Ohno is going to snap. And yeah, and of course Nikki Cross is always kind of in here, and she knows who exactly attacked Aleister Black, or she just acts like it. I don't know, maybe she just wants attention and kind of, I don't know, just messes with the people's minds. It could be possible too. Either way, this is a pretty awesome thing. So yep, this is kind of it. And the last thing, it was an awesome main event. Adam Cole, Ricochet versus Pete Dunne for the North American Championship. It was freaking awesome match. I mean, come on. It's a shame that we're rarely seeing those type of matches in WWE overall, and the only brand that you can see those type of matches is NXT. It's a shame because WWE has a lot of superstars that more than capable of producing these type of matches, but for weird reasons WWE, the actual WWE roster, I mean, no Raw, no SmackDown, no 205 Live, rarely showing us these type of matches, because, I don't know, maybe because this is just the WWE policy not to create super awesome matches every week, but actually leave things to a big shows, because if you will produce a constant awesome matches, constantly awesome matches after awesome match after awesome match, awesome match after awesome match, at some point people will start to expect awesomeness, and these expectations could lead WWE into a pretty bad direction. I mean, people will start to hate WWE for its lack of awesomeness for some reason, and for its boring matches, for boring booking, and etc. So. And because of this, they're kind of keeping things low profile when it comes down to the actual company brands. And with NXT, they're kind of doing a little bit outside of that. So they're trying to experiment. They're actually creating awesome matches, and for NXT, it works. And it's a good mix that adds to the WWE boredness sometimes. So, but again, I get that if you want to hold the company on its feet for such a long period of time and make it relevant, you can't just create a awesome match after awesome match. There needs to be a kind of roller coaster of storytelling. Sometimes you go down, sometimes you will get a little bit higher. So it's a fluidity of the storytelling, and you're never going to like create an awesome pay-per-view after awesome pay-per-view. Some pay-per-views are made to be mediocre in order to produce this kind of fluidity, because if you will go constantly only on top, you will hit the ceiling and you don't know where to go next, and the only where to go is to basically go down, and the higher you will get, the harder it is to fall. So it's just a policy, I guess, is of the WWE, like the management, etc. And this is the way how the big company could survive for such a long period of time, by not giving everything at once, but kind of giving small bits and pieces, and giving us kind of the anticipation, and work with building things, not showing things necessarily. Again, this is the way how I believe WWE basically maintains longevity of its existence. And it will continue to exist if the same formula will be applied. But again, it doesn't mean that they have to replay the same thing all over and over again. They definitely have to adapt and change if needed. So right now, the slow changes give us a little bit more new things. So we see a pretty big transformation in last years of the WWE, with NXT, with women's division, and overall with almost everything, and it kind of makes things kind of fresh, and with new superstars, I believe, especially considering the roster of NXT, it's always going to be a pretty awesome stuff. So I believe WWE will kind of exist forever, maybe, with this type of formula. So yeah, as long as you have a people who could stay in management and not ruin the company by weird decisions, like it was in Attitude Era with WCW and etc. So yeah, on that note, we finished with NXT, and the last thing that we're going to talk about is oh yeah, by the way, Ricochet won. Yeah, this triple threat match. The last thing we're going to talk about is the 4 matches that transpired on Mae Young Classic. Again, someone told me that all results of Mae Young Classic already exist, so like you can actually know who exactly going to be in the finals. I don't believe that, or if it's true, I don't want to know it, because for me it's much more interesting to look who exactly going to win and actually give predictions. Although like hardcore fans probably already know the results, I don't care. I don't want to know results. I want to know things my own way, like basically learn things my own way. This is much more interesting, and you will get more satisfaction out of it than just like knowing who is going to fight on the actual WWE Evolution. But still, I get that most of these shows are pre-recorded, but I doubt that they're all recorded fully and that's it, and the final result is already there. Who knows? So either way, this week we saw Tegan Nox fight against Nicole Matthews. Of course, Tegan Nox won. Right here, I actually didn't have any doubts that she's going to win. What else we saw? We also saw Io Shirai fought against a Zixus. It was actually a pretty cool match, and of course Io won. I kind of thought that she will continue too. The only prediction that I made wrong is with Caitlyn. I actually thought that Caitlyn is going to win, but again, it all depended on, again, the same happened with Brian Kendrick at this point. I kind of talked about it a couple of weeks ago that Caitlyn might not get pushed to the next round because of the fact that she's kind of a veteran and she got back and she didn't wrestle for such a long time. So, and Mia Yim she's a little bit more fresh and she will give us a little bit more energy, and she also is second year in Mae Young Classic. So because of this, Mia Yim basically won. It was, by the way, main event, and they actually gave us a pretty awesome match. And Deonna Purrazzo, of course, won against CLE. That was kind of an interesting one. I mean, I get the Deonna Purrazzo getting pushed. Again, it's possible that Deonna Purrazzo is going to fight in the end, in the final against Toni Storm, or Tegan Nox is going to fight against Toni Storm, or someone is going to fight against Toni Storm. I believe from this point, again, I already talked about it, that I want to see Lacey Lane fight a Toni Storm in the finals and semifinals. And then from in this side, it would be awesome to see Deonna Purrazzo fight against probably Tegan Nox. Because the next thing, Tegan Nox is going to fight Rhea Ripley, which means that there is a good possibility that Rhea Ripley could win, but I don't believe that because of her limited abilities on the ring. Again, she's a brawler and she's not going to show us a pretty match. She's just strict power and toughness, and it's not necessarily going to work for the finals. So I don't believe that she's going to continue forward. Tegan Nox has a little bit more diversity in terms of the style, and she could adapt to any wrestler. So with Io Shirai, I believe she's going to fight Deonna Purrazzo. This is kind of a questionable thing, so I believe that there is a possibility that Io Shirai is going to win and Purrazzo is going to kind of lose. But again, it's still a questionable thing. Again, regardless of who's going to win, I'm going to be happy for them. So, right here with Mia Yim against Toni Storm, 100% Toni Storm is going to continue, because I believe Toni Storm is going to be a winner from the left side of the brackets. And again, Mia Yim is kind of cool. She's on fire. People love her. But still, this match, by the way, is going to be a freaking explosion. Mia Yim against Toni Storm. So again, Toni Storm definitely, I believe, is going to win. Right here, Lacey Lane is going to fight Meiko Satomura. I believe this is the time where Lacey Storm either going to win or lose, which is clear, but still, I actually want for Lacey Lane to win. She's definitely could give us a pretty interesting match. But again, the veteran status of Meiko Satomura could push her through. But again, we could see the same thing that happened with Tajiri. Because of her long years in the business, she might not get pushed too far in a competition. Who knows? Either way, so and yeah, I'm definitely rooting for Lacey Lane, Toni Storm in the semifinals, and probably Deonna Purrazzo versus Tegan Nox, because they're kind of similar, and it's going to be interesting to see their fight each other. That's it. So we're going to finish with WWE things, and for the remaining 1.5 hours, if we're not going to, if computer is not going to break as in the previous session after 1.5 hour stream got basically crushed, and my computer got crushed, and basically it was no need to relaunch the stream because like 30 minutes left and it's still lagging. So, and I spent the whole night trying to cover this problem. So yeah, we're saving things, putting it on a second monitor, and continuing with the CM Punk. Hopefully today we will, in a 1.5 hour, get to a certain point with painting CM Punk. Again, I will talk about it in a minute. Come on, why are... It's so freaking long. Yeah, we're not going to... By the way, in terms of the NXT, the next NXT pay-per-view is going to be NXT War Games, which will happen on November 17, the day before Survivor Series. So it's actually going to be a pretty cool thing. So yeah, This is it. Let's just close this. We're not going to need that. Let's free up a little bit of space, and let's just go into the Sandbox portrait. Again, I didn't do anything from the last kind of session, because again, I spent the whole time trying to make things not lag, because for some freaking reason all my brushes were lagging like crazy. I mean, I couldn't draw anything. Even if I drew like these type of lines, it lagged. When I tried to make things bigger, it lagged. If I tried to make things smaller, it lagged. It lagged every freaking second. It was pretty annoying. And I actually spent a decent amount of time to resaving brushes and making them a little bit different. So before that, what I did with brushes is, in almost every painting brush that works with wet and even with dry, I set a spacing, basically enabled spacing, and made it this type of curve and 50%. It basically gave me the ability to go with high with big sizes and avoid this type of digital look when you have the repetitive pattern. So if we're going to go into super mega big brushes, then we need to enable spacing, but in most cases these brushes are going to stay within probably 50-60 pixels, and because of this we actually don't need that. And because of this, like, to make brushes a little bit more lighter, because I didn't necessarily get rid of the old lags, still some lags were present. I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's something changed in the structure of the windows that I can't change. So it still lags more than it lagged when I actually painted this. So when I painted this, it was no lags at all. I mean, I painted it with no lags at all, but for some reason, it was 2 days ago, but for some reason yesterday it got super laggy, and the only thing that I did is installed a Windows update. Since then I uninstalled them, and I blocked the updates in Windows to not get those updates for probably a month. Also, I cleaned up the space and I defragmented the hard drives, and I made things a little bit more clearer, and it kind of reinstalled the driver on everything almost, and hopefully it's going to work. But again, it's something that you can change. Like, if something broke, you're not going to be able to bring back. So yeah, and also I kind of experimented with new windows yesterday, but what I will do though, instead of creating multiple windows, I'm just going to create I'm going to open a new instance of the Krita. So window, new window. So it will create a completely new Krita, in which I will open a new view with the CM Punk. So basically I'm going to have two Kritas at the same time. Hopefully it's not going to lag, because I need to put this one on the second monitor and see what changes in values I'm getting. So unfortunately you're not going to see this, but again, this is the only way how I'm seeing this working. So in order for me to check values, I'm going to, from time to time, use this. So, and then we're just going to use the soft proofing in here. I put an in settings of the soft proofing somewhere in here. I don't remember what exactly it is. Nope, not here. Probably in properties? Yep. In soft proofing, I basically chose a model of the Grayscale Alpha. It basically, every time that I'm going to enable soft proofing, is going to turn these colors into a grayscale. So, only in this project. So now I'm going to put this one in a second monitor. Let's just position it in the right way. Also, let's get rid of the... hopefully it's going to work. Wait a second. Also, let's just get rid of the view. Show canvas only. Oh no, it's actually goes full screen. It's not something that I need. Ah, Seriously? Now I can't get out of there. This is weird. Okay, we need to close it. We need to reopen it again. This is the first time that I'm doing this, so it's going to be pretty annoying. So sorry for that. Again, I decided that I'm going to keep streams a little bit more casual. Like, I'm putting too much pressure on myself. I'm for some freaking reason, I'm looking at everything that I'm doing like I have to create a super awesome stuff right away. But it's stupid to expect this from yourself. Show dockers. Yeah, I'm just going to hide dockers at there, and I'm going to put this one on the second monitor on top, and it's going to help me to reevaluate everything that I'm seeing. So basically, on second monitor, I have a second version of the Krita with this type of zoom, and I'm going to check the look of the grayscale because I'm going to work with colors strictly. It's going to be a pretty hard one to do. So yeah, this is kind of it. Let's just start. Hopefully it's not going to lag, and hopefully it's not going to like go super crazy. So let's just save, and for you, in order to give you some type of examples of how it's going to look in black and white, like sometimes I'm going to go into the black and white mode. I will try to not do this for too much because of the fact that because we have a turned on soft proofing there, sometimes in order to bring it into a color here, we need to kind of reset it. So sorry about that. So because of this, kind of, yeah. So yeah, again, this thing I painted as a test. We're not going to save it. It was just a test for you to show what exactly we're going to do. So we're just going to work on a portrait. We're going to work on a painting skills. We're going to work with the working with brushes, learning how to work with colors, how to basically perceive colors, try to analyze how exactly to work with colors in terms of the choices. Maybe we at some point, for now, I'm just going to try to like copy whatever I'm seeing in here for now. For now, I'm just going to basically copy and get used to things. Once I will get comfortable with this, I will start to analyze it on a little bit more bigger scale. So we actually will start to analyze why exactly this color like works with this color, like how this transition goes. And we will try to analyze how exactly we need to create some type of transitions, where exactly things are going to be warmer, where exactly things are going to be a little bit more cooler, and etc. How this coolness will be created. And of course, we're not going to just use whatever we see here. I mean, at some point I will start to experiment and try to use my own versions of those colors by trying to make this portrait a little bit more unique, not just like strictly taken from the photo. But for now, again, it's going to be rather simple because of the fact that I'm still getting experience in this, and once experience is going to be gained, we'll start to kind of expand a little bit. So what I'm seeing right now is the fact that I'm using the wrong color. Right here we're actually seeing a little bit more greenish color. I thought that it's actually kind of, it still has warmth, but it's actually a little bit more towards the dark, probably something like this, and it's a little bit more darker. Again, we might change it a little bit later, but again, we need to set a pretty decent. Okay, no, it's not working. Maybe it's a little bit more towards the yellow. So what I'm doing is basically trying to pick up the right colors. No, it's actually somewhat orangish. Yeah, kind of works. So again, the problem is that usually people perceiving color a little bit differently, depending on what type of conditions we're seeing the color. So right here, when I'm looking at this color of the background, I'm comparing it with the color of the skin, and because of this, this color basically appears a little bit differently, and you're never going to 100% be sure about the background color. It's actually not important. The main important thing for us, even if we're going to mess with colors, we're not going to color pick them. We're going to use them like on our own. We're going to look at them and we're going to try to assess what exactly the type of colors we're seeing. And this is how exactly we're going to go with it. So yeah, let's just start. Again, I'm not going to dive into the reasons why I decided to switch. Again, I talked about it in the last session, although I lost the session and it's not going to be in a full HD quality. I'm going to upload it in 720p quality, which is pretty bad, with low latency. So yeah, so let's just start. So the first thing that we're going to do, of course, we're going to establish the main silhouette of the CM Punk, because again, we're working with shapes right here, and shapes here for us are the most important. So again, I will try to look at his medium skin tone and try to figure out what exactly his skin tone is. I might basically, I probably 100% will be wrong about it, but it doesn't matter. The main thing for me is to start to put some, yeah, let's just go with a little bit more grayscale-ish. I also don't know how exactly we need to paint it. I mean, ideally we need to choose a fill brush that basically going to fill the whole thing first, and then use our paint brushes to create actual brush strokes. So because of this, it probably could be a good idea to first work with the drawing techniques and fill the space with something like this, because it creates a little bit more kind of hard edge, and we could fill a pretty big space with it, and it also creates the proper texture that we need. So yeah, first let's just like, by looking at CM Punk, I will try to move canvas less, but this is something that I just need to learn how to do it. I'm still learning this type of thing. So for now, we're not going to necessarily work with, oh snap. We probably should separate background before doing this. Yes, let's just do exactly that. If I'm not going to separate background, it's going to be a definite mistake. So, yep, the background is going to be separate and the painting is going to be here. Of course, we need to copy the same mask in order to not go over the borders. So again, I'm not going to focus that much on crazy proportions. For now, my main concern is to just put things in a proper position based on the marks that I did. And again, it's probably slightly going to lag. I don't know the reasons why it's lagging. It's not clear for me personally. Maybe because brushes are too big. By the way, the size of this brush is actually much. Oh no, it's digital, so it's fine. So right now I'm just trying to create a silhouette and kind of establish the main overall silhouette. And in this particular instance, it's going to be completely filled. I don't need to leave a texture here, so I will try to fill it fully. Yeah, at some point, once I will get comfortable with painting and working with this, I will start to talk about WWE during this. I will talk about creative process and etc. So for now, I guess it's going to be relatively not informative at all, because again, for me, this is me just doing this. Not for the first time, but again, I don't have that much experience with this. So while I'm gaining it, sorry about it. Oh, snap. Oh. Because again, we're going to re-evaluate this throughout. The process. It's going to become a little bit right now I'm using, of course, I'm looking at those negative shapes. I'm trying to see what type of size of the triangle we're actually seeing this. This actually helps you to look at the proportions and work with proportions not just randomly, but actually comparing negative spaces. This is something that helps you to train your vision on negative spaces too, because non-artists are usually not noticing negative spaces at all, because negative spaces is something that you're going to work with only if you're an artist. I guess in life you could use negative spaces somewhere, but in most cases negative spaces are used mostly in art related stuff, design and etc. Again, trying to compare the sizes of those triangles and trying to create a, like, not perfect but pretty close silhouette, because the silhouette is going to be our first base that we're going to use to make things look like him. Again, we're not going to focus on proportions that much. We still will try to nail them down, but it's not going to be from the first try 100%. It's going to be a kind of gradual process, I believe. And of course the color that I chose, it's not even close to whatever we're seeing in here, which I now understand, but this is something that we will deal with later. Usually I don't like working with these type of projects, with this type of studies. Again, this is one of the reasons why throughout the years I tried to stay away from these type of studies. I didn't saw efficiency in those studies because my brain wasn't prepared to work with them efficiently. Now, considering the knowledge that I have a little bit more and better understanding why exactly we need to go with these type of studies. And if I'm going to do these type of studies, I'm going to do them not just mindlessly over painting things, like the things that I see, but I'm actually will try to analyze things that I need to pay attention to when creating my own personal projects. So again, it's all about purposes and the reasons why exactly you were studying the thing that you're studying. And before that, it wasn't clear at all. I never thought that these type of studies, that I will do these type of studies that are outside of the projects. Of course, we're not going to create perfect edges, so and because of this, I'm not using a hard erasers. So again, we have 3 versions of the hard and / soft erasers, 2 versions of the soft erasers, and 2 hard erasers. We also have Blender. I don't see the point right now into making these edges appear different. The fact that they appear the way that they appear, it's actually a good thing for us, because we might use this texture to direct brush strokes once we will get to the painting stage. Right now it's just filling the shapes. It's a pretty straightforward thing to do. Let's just change it to a something with hard edges. Every brush has a randomized pattern, so of course this brush has a texture pattern to it, and this texture pattern like creates these non-digital looks for the brush, like we're actually working with the charcoal, or with this particular point not necessarily with the charcoal, but still. What I'm doing right now, I'm just filling in those grainy areas with a little bit more paint to make sure that they're not going to be just holes. Filling them. Just quickly going over things. So yeah, it kind of makes silhouette fine. I mean, it's still pretty far from what it needs to be, but again, the reason why we need to lay down the silhouette in the proper way, because the type of proportions that we are establishing right now are the outer proportions. Consider it as your outside composition of the face itself, for the face itself. If you will create a bigger shape right here, you will start to place your face features and head features the wrong way. So the better you will lay down the proportions of this, the better result you will get. So because of this, I will spend a little bit more time on laying down these proportions of this thing a little bit better. So there's nowhere to rush. We're not Leo Rush. You see what I did there? It was not smart at all. It was kind of lame, actually. This is a place for his mustache. And again, I don't want to be super mega perfect in here, but I want to be as close as possible, because then I need to do less work. And again, it's all about negative shapes. I'm looking at this negative shape, and I'm looking at this negative shape, and I'm trying to compare this negative shape. This is one of the reasons why I created the diagonals in here and kind of triangle grid instead of just a regular grid, because regular grid, it creates a similar and pretty boring negative shapes that it's boring to work with those type of shapes. When you put diagonals, it makes things a little bit more interesting and a little bit more unique. So again, this is just a personal choice. Not that like cubes wouldn't work in here, but still. Okay, so again, we're going to refine the actual silhouette a little bit later. I'm not trying to exactly pinpoint where his brow is going to be at this point, no. This is just like a basic thing. We will need to do that later, but now it's not important. So this thing goes somewhere in here. And then we have a hair. Pretty close, by the way. But yeah. Hair is going to be barely visible at this point. We might actually, again, we're going to utilize multiple types of edges. What we're going to do right now, we're actually going to implement knowledge about the edges. So again, we have lost edges, we have firm edges, we have soft edges, and we have hard edges. Soft and firm edges, they're kind of, I'm seeing them in one big category. This is the category of edges that kind of could appear either soft, like for instance this type of transition, or firm, like something like this. Like for instance this part, it kind of considers like it's soft, but it's actually kind of firm, so it still works with like soft and firm transitions. And hard transitions is transitions in something like this, like we have for instance separation of background from the actual silhouette. And of course lost edges is something like for instance here, where we're seeing a transition from the hair to the background and not necessarily seeing any edges. This photo doesn't necessarily have this, but this is something that we might create to make things a little bit more interesting. So because of this, again, I just don't want to overpaint this, but like by looking at it, I did it before here, so I don't want to replay the same stuff that I did in here. It's just kind of pointless, because right here I just basically used the same method as I used like to analyze here. I tried to add in a couple of places like lost edges, like for instance here we actually see kind of something similar to the lost edge. His hair kind of lost itself in the background, but in certain places I will probably use this technique, maybe with his beard, and trying to make his beard a little bit more like connected to the background, if it actually is going to work. If it's not going to work, we're not going to do that. Continuing. So yeah, I guess this is kind of almost it. So the only problem right here, that this negative space definitely a little bit more tilted. So the problem usually that we have is the understanding how exactly this tilt is directed. So the direction of this tilt. It's actually a pretty big one. I mean, we're starting from here and we're going. I just create a couple of more additional diagonals that will help us to look with the facial features a little bit more. Why it's not drawing? Oh. Okay. So yeah, I just want to create a little bit more things closer to the face in order to analyze how things are going to look. But we barely see it. Maybe it's because I chose a... Okay, yeah, now it works a little bit better. So yeah, this will definitely help us. What else will help us? The same line from here to here. And it could be a good idea to actually create some type of line that intersects both of these points, because exactly pretty close to this line we have the depiction of the eyes. So in order to make things a little bit more easier for us, we're going to create a couple of additional guidelines. This is not something that you would do every time. The only problem right here is we need to establish the actual tilt, and in order to make tilt a little bit in a proper way, I decided, okay, we need to do that. So yeah, and that's it. I guess it's more than enough for us to establish. Yeah, I don't believe that we need any connections in here. Although let's just do it, why not, to create a mirror. And now we're just going to copy it, duplicate it, and move it to this part. Just move it a little bit towards the center. So yeah, now we have our main place of interest, because this eye is going to be super important, and we need to establish almost the center of our kind of head. I mean, we definitely will start with the eye as the place that we're going to measure things. What I mean is, so basically we're choosing the place where we're going to start. We need to nail down where the exact position of this eye in this grid, and then from this we will, by comparison, will deal with everything else. So again, choosing the focus and focusing on this focus as the base to build things. Hopefully it's going to work. I don't know. This is the way that I'm like figuring out it's important to establish those things in this particular instance. It's not necessarily might work for every time, but in this instance it's definitely something that we need. So continue. So the next step is probably, again, when I created this thing, I was a little bit more chaotic. I mean, when I created this, I was definitely super chaotic. I just started it. It was super chaotic. I truly look at this as a test. I never thought that I will get to this. Because of this, I didn't record it, because if I would recorded it, I would just play it during the stream and talked about WWE instead of repainting it. But because I didn't create any creation process, I kind of need to overpaint it and overdo it. And again, it's pretty far from final, and I definitely would need to spend more time on it. And if I will spend more time on it, I need for the base to be bad. To be good, not to be bad. I mean better. And the problem with this base, because I started with black and white, not with the color, I have a lot of like bad choices in here in terms of the things, and there's a lot of things to repaint. And if I will do this, I will spend more time that I would spend by repainting it from the get-go. So because of this, I decided to repaint it, and also because of the fact that I don't have a creation process. So yeah. I'm actually not looking there at all, which is a problem. Probably should, but right now I'm not working with values yet. For now I'm just working on establishing basic placements and proportions, and only then I will work with values. So because of this, I'm not considering, I'm not spending that much time on trying to figure out where exactly things are, like how exactly things needs to be in color and value. This is something that we'll focus a little bit later. Right now we're just establishing the base shapes, some sort of. So that's kind of it. So okay, what else? This is actually pretty helpful. So now we know like how eye is related to the corner of the mouth. So now we know that the corner of the mouth in here, and we're not going to make this corner of the eye look weird because of okay. I'll start with quickly establishing the corner of the eye. Oh, the mouth. So mouth kind of starts somewhere here. Again, just small strokes. It doesn't need to be anything super serious. Okay, it's a little bit warm. So with the eye, with the eye, I believe we will go into something like this. No, too high. I'm not trying to come up with the proper colors at this particular instance. I'm just trying to establish the proportional placements for those parts. So eye here, another eye is going to be somewhere in this area. It's actually a dark one. This will help me to establish the tilt. And I will try not to go out of this. Oh! This one kind of looks like an Iron Man or John Cena. I don't know. Okay, so with the nose, just establishing. Again, I chose slightly different value, and I'm just like putting with this light value things. Okay, the nose is pretty far. It's not going to look pretty at this point. It doesn't have to. The whole idea right here is to... Right now, basically I'm working on landmarks, I believe. I'm putting in basic landmarks for the proportions. And I don't know if I will approach every portrait the same way. I believe it could be a good idea to approach every portrait a little bit differently in order to figure out what works the best. So right here, for instance, I know that hair is approximately that color, and because of this, probably could be should be a good idea to work with the dark values first and then go into the light ones. Because we established a big light. First we established big dark, then we established the big light silhouette. Now we need to put something darker to it, and then continue with the light. So I guess, yeah, this is kind of a thing that I need to learn how to work with. Skibbity-bum-bum, skibbity-bum-bum. And again, for now I'm just trying to basically study the rendering skills. This is something that throughout the years I thought that I will get to automatically. So I never had the urge to or need to study rendering itself, because without understanding what rendering is and like how exactly we need to use it in a proper way. And because of this, I didn't spend that much time on rendering skills, like polishing my rendering skills, and it probably shows in the fact that I don't know like where to start yet, but we're getting there. Again, slowly but surely we'll get there, or I will get there at least. I'd probably be into accurate. I mean, I definitely will probably need to be a little bit more. Okay, this is too dark. Right here we actually have a little bit more skin color. It's pretty closer to the bone. I'm not considering, like, I believe every person can do the thing that I'm doing right now, even if you're not, like, even if you're not an artist, you still will be able to do this. Everyone is capable to just basically look at things and draw. Of course, depending on your understanding and your skills, you might produce different results. Some of them, like, some people could produce better results, some people could produce worse results. But in the end, I believe that... Okay, I probably should go a little bit darker in here. But again, let's just establish things. I probably could go darker. So what I'm trying to, like, what I'm noticing right now that I put, like, nose too low, I need to definitely place it a little bit higher. So again, working with proportions is all about comparison. So you basically draw a couple of lines. Joy Mercury! So you're basically drawing a lot of lines and, wait, not lines, but you're putting like more and more information. And the more information you put out there, like you will compare this information with the previous information that you established, etc. And it basically helps you to establish the things that you need to establish. I also trying to stay within the line, like within the strokes. I mean, like the beard kind of has the direction in a certain... Oh snap, I'm putting too much pressure on my stylus. It's just, it's kinda Yeah, let's just save, because we don't know where exactly Krita might break. It might break. Just go a little bit. Again, right now I'm not working on brushes. I'm kind of establishing. Again, I'm working with one big brush, which is basically a charcoal brush. I'm not putting these strokes with the actual brush yet, because this is just establishing basic proportions, and I'm choosing to focus on the proportions first. And after these proportions will be established, we will go with like creating an actual brush strokes and thinking how to make these brush strokes apply to the form and etc. For now, it's not something that we need. For now, it's all about putting down the proportions, establishing where things needs to be. Okay, this thing is actually... Okay, this one is a little bit higher. Rip dip dip dip. Darker. So the nose thing, I'm looking at negative spaces somewhere in here. Nose usually a delicate thing. I mean, it's pretty easy to make it look ugly with the nose. Just one of the problems that you're mostly going to deal with working with nose. Right now, he definitely doesn't look like CM Punk yet. We didn't lay out a proper proportions yet to make it look like CM Punk. We're pretty close. It's all about subtleties again. The more subtleties you will put there, the clearer it will get. No, his nose is actually a little bit bigger in here. Probably bigger in here too. I probably will continue it outside of the streams, and towards next week we either going to be on the finish stage or I'm going to finish with CM Punk separately. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to deal with this only during the stream. So if I feel like it, I might finish it outside of the streams. Then during the streams I will show you a quick kind of overpaint or whatever, like the speed paint, or I will create a separate speed paint out there and put it on YouTube in a separate kind of category of time lapses. I don't really know where exactly it's going to be. One thing for sure is that my YouTube channel is going to have a separate category for time lapses. It's going to be called the Time Lapse Universe, which seems like a clever thing to name it, but I don't believe so. And this is the place where I'm going to upload those type of things, like time lapses or everything related to the process, but not necessarily with explanation. I believe in terms of the proportions, we kind of laid out them pretty decent. So one of the reasons why this eye looks weird is because we definitely need to erase a lot of this part. So I knew that like this was the place with the problem. At the beginning, I didn't understood the extent of this problem. Okay, now it works better. Again, it still doesn't look like CM Punk, but getting closer there. I mean, considering the fact that we're just working with basic shapes and not putting any form. Again, the more you draw and paint like this, like, I mean, I guess with time you will pick up those proportional things, proportional cues a little bit faster. At the beginning, if you don't have experience, you will spend a little bit more time on it. And it's nothing bad about it, as long as you're learning stuff. Right now I'm not necessarily learning that much. The only thing that I'm learning right now is like visual, I don't know. I'm looking at things and I'm trying to make things as the same as I'm seeing them there. So it's just all about like comparison. Probably went too much, but actually not. Yeah, right here I definitely went too far. Okay. It's all about subtleties, and of course working with subtleties, it's always you need to visualize those subtleties first before you will start to apply them. I don't believe that we need to work on an eye yet, on the eye. One thing that I will establish though is where the separation of the eye. Okay, it's much higher. The eye itself needs to be much higher here. So yeah, the head needs to be a little bit smaller. Skibbity ba-boom. I still don't know how I need to transition to the next stage. Again, since I'm still, like, again, it's a different thing when you work randomly and then you will start to work with in a controlled way. Most of my creation process I will try to control, but in some areas you need to give the control to the process itself and kind of just let it flow and let it do its job. But it will come with experience, and since we don't have it yet, or at least I don't have it yet, I need to kind of a little bit like think what's the next step. Not the exact what's the next step, because what's the next step is pretty clear. Like, what is the most efficient step, I would say, in terms of the time consuming because again, this is studies. This is not something that we will put in our portfolio. This is something that I will definitely upload on my on separate category on DeviantArt or something like this. Maybe even put this information in featured. But again, it's not going to be my like the actual portfolio work, and I'm not going to establish it as a portfolio work. Of course, this is just the studies, and because this is just the studies, it's kind of a hard thing to understand how to make them as fast as possible, but at the same time make things efficient in terms of the studying. So you don't want to spend too much time on this if you don't have a specific reason behind this. I mean, if you will work on a comic book in which you will implement CM Punk and you'll create a story for it, then you'll probably need to spend a little bit more time on studying how CM Punk looks, like how he behaves, and etc. His proportions and all this stuff. Again, it all depends on your goals and what is the reason behind the thing that you're doing. Okay. Let's start to implement some type of darks in here. Just make them a little bit more darker. Again, this is a little bit different approach from what I took with sculpting. In sculpting, I worked on the anatomy first, and then I started to put these things together. And like first we worked with the anatomy, and only then we implemented the actual CM Punk. Right now, I don't want to focus on the anatomy. I don't want to focus on construction. I want to focus on strictly seeing the form, like face to face. This is something that I don't know how to work with, and this is something that I want to learn how to work with. And because of this, I want to spend a little bit more excessive time on doing this. And it's a good idea to do this during the streams, because at least it gives us a little bit more continuation. And the main thing is not to rush. One of the things that I'm learning right now is not to rush. Because usually this is my biggest problem. I'm rushing things. I want things to go faster than they need to be. And don't get me wrong, I have patience. So I could be super patient. If I wouldn't have a patient, I wouldn't be here. I mean, I probably would quit painting a lot of years ago. The fact that I'm still doing this and still pushing and still have the same love for it as I had at the beginning basically tells you something. That I'm stubborn? I kinda am. When it comes down to things that I love and that I like. Yeah, this is the problem right now. I believe we already established all things that we need. Now it's time to probably continue into the better. Yeah, right now I'm actually trying, like, making him look more like CM Punk. And I guess it's a good idea to spend time on doing this now than to repaint the whole, like, to re-render things. I don't know, this is something that I still need to figure out though. But again, I believe that if I will spend time on doing this now, I will save time and I will finish the render quicker. Because again, if base is here, the rest is just will come on its own. If the base thing is here, the rest will follow. Because rendering, it's not that hard. You're just looking at things and you're just doing it, that's it. I never saw rendering as the problem of learning, because rendering is just a skill that you could get out of repetition. Of course, it's a good idea to analyze and understand like what render is, how exactly to work with it better, how light works, and etc. So this information is definitely kind of helpful. No disregard there. But sometimes again, we will make it a little bit better later. I also don't want to dive into putting any type of lights in here. I mean, I could do this though. Let's just try to do this at least. Let's just try to establish the places with the more dark. I need to learn to work with this triangle. Could be a good idea to learn how to do that. Okay, I guess this is too much, but actually it kind of works. Just use it. I believe right here we're going to see a little bit more warmth. This kind of looks a little bit more cool. Again, right now I'm just working on establishing basic things. I don't want to overcomplicate this yet, because in previous part I tried to, not the session, but in the test part of this, I went into the details pretty quickly. It was a little bit easier because I worked with values only. I didn't consider colors, and I'm still not working with colors yet, but I'm putting a base for the color, which is not necessarily a actual local color, but it's pretty close to what it needs to be. Ideally, I would of course like created a little bit darker things, but again, this is just a base. It's a hard thing to work with these type of things. You need to analyze shapes. You need to see the shape. You need to analyze how the shape looks, and you need to figure out how it actually placed and where exactly it's placed. Shapes, shapes, shapes. Just putting shapes in proper places in order for then start to work on them. Okay, not eraser. I get that this thing is super mega dark. It's all about contrast. It will start to look better once we will start to give it a contrast. So again, it's pretty far from what it needs to be at this point. But again, contrast is power. The more contrast we'll give it, the clearer it will get. So even by doing this, it starts to look a little bit more. Much better. Probably should switch into a painting brushes, but the reason why I'm now switching into the painting brushes because right here, no matter what type of stroke I'm going to put, it's going to look, it's not going to look like a stroke, and it's a good thing, because if I will create a round strokes at this point, they might drive this project into a bad direction. In terms of, like, the more strokes you have indicated, the harder is going to be the harder is going to be to ignore them, and you will just follow everything that you put. So if I will put like too much information in here, this information might distract me. This might not be something that I need. Ouch. Oh snap. That was kind of not cool. And of course right here most of the shadows we're not going to see, and the reason for that is because of the tattoos. They are preventing shadows from being visible. In most cases we're barely going to see them, but it could be a good idea to still put some type of a suggestion of the form. It's not necessarily going to be a proper one, but at least the basic suggestion where the form is supposed to be. This is the problem with textures. They could change the appearance of the light and make it harder to read. Sometimes even impossible to read. Skim. Okay, we could make this part a dark one. This part either way is going to be dark, regardless. Somehow yeah, I went into the painting mode. Again, there's nothing to talk about at this particular instance, so I'm in analytical mode. I'm looking at things and trying to figure out how things are, where things are placed. So I guess we're pretty close to establishing the basic proportions, and it's some I guess we could actually start to go into the actual like figuring out the colors and starting to put colors for now. We didn't get to extremes, which is a good idea, because if we would get it to the extremes, then it would be harder to overpaint things. So I kept things light in values. So in most cases, if I will look at those values, they're pretty horrible, and it's the idea. We don't need to go into the values that fast. Still needs to spend a little bit more time on doing this before we go into the value thing. And this is going to be a hard one to like figuring out the values and colors at the same time, because again, in most cases, this is not something that I know how to do like properly. I hope that it will be successful, not from the first try though, but because again, previous result that I showed before, I made from black and white and then like overpainted it with color, and then just worked with color only, overpainting it on top of the black and white. But right here it's a little bit different, because now we need to put the proper looks with color and make sure that the value is going to work the proper way too. So it's kind of a double work. Twice as much work needs to be done, which is completely fine, but again, it will overcomplicate things. But for me, it just makes things challenging, and I love challenging things because they pushes you out of your comfort zone. It's always a good idea not to stay in your comfort zone for too long. Figure out what exactly you need to do to get out of this comfort zone and push forward, in order to not to stay in one boring place without growth. And growth could be different for every person. Like for me personally, throughout the years, the way that I grew was not through the practical things, but through theoretical. And the snap. Sorry about that. Theoretical growth is something that made me grow constantly. For other people, theoretical growth not necessarily gives them everything that they need. Again, it's all personal. I'm already creating suggestions for the for these things, but I don't believe that I need to. Although establishing the basic lights with the soft touches seems like a good idea too. I don't know. I'm just figuring things out. Hopefully it will work. Okay, we need to erase some things on the top. Definitely has we almost nailed down his hair in terms of the shape. It's almost there. We might get overboard with erasing. We might add a little bit later. But again, it's going to be on later stages when we will redefine the background. Ow. Because of the fact that I slept a couple of hours only through a couple of days, I mean, in less probably 3 or 5 days I slept overall probably 10 hours. I don't know. And because of this, my head is kind of getting tired super quickly. Just work on the ear a little bit. Let's just try to put some definitions to the ear. One of the hardest parts to draw and to make it look fine, because the ear is kind of usually ugly. It never looks fine. It has pretty weird shapes, and again, at this point the main thing is to put the actually didn't create any light areas yet, which I don't believe that we need to do. It's pretty early. It seems like this ear is smaller than the original one, but in reality the only reason why it's because of the light. It's an optical illusion, or just an illusion. Once we will create a proper contrast, it will work fine. This is all because of the contrast. Okay, his jaw is definitely, yeah, I messed up with his jaw. It definitely goes towards this direction more. Then it goes on top. Yep, it was one of the things that made him look weird. Besides the fact that it's just the beginning and it looks weird. Yep, this thing definitely bigger. Not super big though. Oh, the beard. Oh, the beard. I probably made it too big though. It seems like I need to make his lips a little bit lower. It seems like they're too high. Again, at this particular instance, nothing super special about it. We're just working. Yeah, I guess this is kind of, it for the basic establishments of the proportions and etc. I believe it works. The rest is just, we'll go with details and we will redefine proportions more and more the further we will go. But in this particular instance, as the base color, it's still better than having a black and white. Because if we would have a black and white only, we wouldn't by the way, I believe one of the things that makes it weird is this part. The fact that the eye needs to be a little bit smaller, maybe. It's actually a little bit further here. So again, now it's going to be all about redefining things and actually starting to figure out the actual shadows, actual lights, etc. It's relatively complex light setting in the fact that it has a lot of different directions. It comes from the different directions, I should say. I don't believe that his eye... Yeah, it actually kind of looks like this. It's not necessarily that big. He looks slightly... So, probably the problem with the nose. Let's just revisit the thing in mirror mode. Yeah, this eyebrow is definitely kind of makes things weirder. The fact that we don't have a definitive separation for the eye too makes it flat, and we don't know where exactly it ends and where it starts. Yeah, I'm going over the board. We need to kind of... Oh yeah, I forgot about this part completely. Definitely need to put this 80. Nose area. We need to work a little bit on the nose area. I mean a little bit better. It's definitely kind of... Yeah. I put nose too high. Because of this it looks weird. That's definitely a little bit lower. Yes, this is the reason why I'm still on a pretty bad detailing. Like, I'm not going into details yet, because if I will go into details, like every proportional change will force me to repaint everything. And by doing this, with the low details, I don't need to repaint that much. I just need to move the thing that doesn't work, and that's it, until it will work. Okay, this is a little bit better. Okay, we're going to redefine this area multiple times, it's not that big of a deal. I don't believe they will today. Again, there's 10 minutes till the end of the stream. I guess let's just continue to work on the basics, yeah, for now, because again, the all basics, proportional basics I will lay down right now, and rendering is just going to be a strict rendering. There's nothing super fun about rendering usually. I mean, the most interesting stuff that we're going to do is the thing that we're doing right now, establishing the proper proportions and etc. Like getting this to this type of stage or even further, it's just all about rendering. And rendering, it's not that hard. It's just basically looking at things, choosing proper shades, understanding the form, understanding that shadow isn't here, the light area isn't here, the shadow part is here, the rim light placed in here, and it's all about just creating an illusion of reality. And when it comes down to the illusion of reality, the only way, like how you can learn to create illusion of reality, is to just basically try to render yourself things. What are we doing right now? It's more just establishing basic proportions in order to make sure that we will set up the base for the next stage. The more work I will put in right now, the easier for me going to be rendering. And I guess yeah, and I guess the rendering is just going to be easier because again, most of the shapes are already established. I don't need to think about how to properly place them in a proper position because most of the place is already established. The only thing that I will need to think about at that point is how to make sure that is going to look realistic. So, and the more problems I will solve at this stage, the better. And again, with tattoos, this is something that we need to think about. I don't know if I will render all tattoos. It will take me a lot of time, but at the same time, it's kind of an interesting practice too, because again, as I said previously, tattoo it's you could consider tattoo as its own, like the painting inside of the painting, which is kind of a cool thing. Redefine an eye, an ear a little bit with something lighter. I'm still trying to figure out like the process, like how exactly I need to approach studying. For now, I'm just trying to do things naturally, like what comes naturally to me, I'm doing. A little bit later, of course, I will establish a little bit better, probably process. Yeah, the eye much more, or the ear has more warmth there. And if we're putting a base, it's better that this base is going to have warmth to it. Usually shadows are going to be warm. In this particular instance, I believe they're definitely going to be warm ones. But it's something that we need to think about too. Again, working with colors, it's not easy. Again, it's all about subtleties. Subtleties are everything. I guess today we're going to work only on basics. Again, I would finish that in the last session if we wouldn't, in the previous session, if we didn't get disconnected. But I'm doing it now. In this particular instance, I'm not going to focus on speed. I mean, it doesn't matter how fast I'm going to work with it, how slow I'm going to work with it. As long as I'm working with it, it's fine. I'm learning something, I'm experiencing something, and it's fine. I don't want to push this more than it needs to be pushed. For me, this is a way to study, first and foremost. And when it comes down to studying, of course you will think about how to make the studying process efficient in terms of the speed, because it's better for you to spend time on creating work instead of just studying 24/7. Because if you will study 24/7, you're never going to start to work on anything serious. So it's all about, like, for now I'm 100% sure what I need to do on Twitch and on YouTube when it comes down to stream. So I'm just going to continue to do the things that I set out to do. And right now it's all about the balance. So it's the hard thing for me is going to be to balance things out. And by this I mean the balancing working with painting here, working with perspective study there on Twitch, and also working on personal projects, again continuing to work on the CM Punk project we started last week, and pushing it somewhere. Again, this work that I'm doing right now, it's a little bit more study oriented, and the CM Punk project that we started last week and ended last week, or not landed but paused it. This is something that a little bit more, like, not necessarily a portfolio oriented, but this is something that you actually want to show to others. In terms of, like, these studies, there's nothing special about them. This is just my the demonstration of my skills, and that's it. My rendering skills, like, whatever they are, bad or not bad. But when it comes down to the okay, why it's not dark? It's to be darker. Yeah, the problem with picking up the colors in here, because we have so much areas right here with the grain, it's with the paper texture. Because of this paper texture, it's pretty hard to pick up things. This is, by the way, probably the way that you would start to work with maybe charcoals, or the, how do you call it? I forgot how they're named. Pastels. Not necessarily 100% the way. Yes, you probably will start to work with pastels this way, and then you will take the blender and you will start to blend things and create smooth transitions. This is, by the way, something that will do too, because we need to get rid of this texture ideally, and in order to produce a proper results. So I'm not going to do this today, but outside of the streams, in order to prepare this for rendering, I need to make sure that everything is going to be relatively smooth. Although I don't know, I will think about it. It all depends. Like, if it's going to be, like, if it's going to distract us, then we'll definitely blend it. If it's not going to create destruction and it will work fine, we're not going to go into the blending. But in certain areas, I believe blending needs to be done, because these textures are kind of distracting, and in order to get rid of this destruction, we're probably going to use blending for it. Because with blending, it works a little bit more clean, and without it, it's just kind of grainy, and you don't necessarily see what's happening here. So, so again, this is the decision that I will need to make outside of the streams. So yeah, let's just slowly wrap up the session. We have about 5 minutes till the end. So the last thing that I want to talk about is, like, not to talk about, but just basically do, no, let's just continue to refine the parts. Again, I'm using a soft brush in here. Of course, I could take something much harder. Yeah, I tried to work on redefining the ear a little bit better, but again, it's more than enough for the ear. Although it could be a good idea to put a couple of more details here and there. Yeah, the complexity of the ear, it's usually kind of annoying because it's not easy to make it right, look right. It's always a, if you know the basic form, you probably will. It's all about knowing where the shadows area are, where the light areas are, creating an illusion. And again, I started super soft. I'm not going into the, I mean, in terms of the values, they are like, the transition and values are pretty bad. I mean, if we were actually going to go into the black and white mode again, the value jump or the step, it's pretty bad. I mean, if we're going to take the background from this, it's pretty high. So we're starting in about 20 and about 60. But when it comes down to the darkest areas, they are at 20, which is pretty similar to this. And the lightest area right here, probably here, it's 63. The middle area is 58, so again, they're pretty close. No, this is the middle area. 30. 60. Yeah, the biggest difference in values are in here and between those two. It's like we just took 3 basic values and created this type of thing. Ideally in the future I want to learn how to work with simplifying things. A little bit later I will probably start to work on simplifying the form by shapes. So for instance, I'm going to see the shape in here, and I'm going to try to see this shape, how it looks, how it operates, where exactly it goes, how it breaks. So this is something that I need to learn eventually. It will help us to learn how to work with those shapes. Then I'm just going to fill those shapes with color or with value. Usually it's going to be a relatively dark one. And then I'm going to fill the rest of the shapes, and that way we're going to come up with the shape-like separation. So this is going to be a shadow area, yep, this is going to be a light area or whatever, and this is something that I want to try too, because I see artists are doing this and I don't have a clue how they're doing it, because for that you need to have a pretty good eye on shapes, and we're going to think about shapes the closer, like the more experience we'll get, I guess. For now, I'm just going to draw from what I'm seeing the way that it's comfortable for me first, and then once I will produce a proper, decent results, I will start to push things on it, like in a different direction in terms of the studying, and we will start to learn more in depth things. I mean, like the actual shape separation. So for instance, the hair is going to be one big shape, the beard is going to be one big shape with the mustaches and the transitions. The eyebrows with the eye is going to be one big kind of shape. This is going to be one big shape. So you're going to squint, and you're going to use squinting in order to put down these big shapes, and that way it's going to help us to recreate those interesting shapes once we will start to work on our own lighting. But to get there, you still need to get more experience that I have, I guess. So yeah, on that note, we're going to kind of finish again. This is it for today. So again, I don't know where exactly I'm going to be next session. If I will have time, I will like push this forward, and maybe next stream we're going to either finish it or we'll finish it, and I will start to work with AJ next stream. We'll see. It all depends like what I will be able to do throughout the weekend, because again, tomorrow I don't know if I will work with CM Punk. I need a lot of things to prepare before Twitch streams on weekend. So again, this is things that I need to think about, not you. So yeah, I guess that's it for this part of the session. Again, overall, hopefully, like from now on, sessions are going to transpire in this type of format. So I'm going to focus more on working and less on speaking and talking. We're going to every time discuss WWE at the beginning, and if I will remember something relevant to WWE throughout the creation process, I will mention it. But in most cases, I'm going to focus on creative part at this point. We're always going to, at the beginning of the sessions, revisit WWE week. It's kind of will set up the energy, and I will like share everything, every energy that I got from WWE out there, and it's going to be awesome for me personally, kind of venting. So, and yeah, and after that we're just going to continue and focus on painting aspects a little bit more. So again, for now we're going to work with this type of thing, and again, in the end it's going to be pretty close to this result, but it's going to be a little bit better, because again, what you see in here, it was kind of a random thing. And it was created in a couple of hours. I probably spent from 2 to 3 hours on this. I truly don't know how much hours I actually spent on this, but it was kind of quick. So, and of course it isn't finished, but and I'm not going to probably finish it. I'm just going to show it as an example, and that's it. I'm not going to finish it. So right now I'm focusing on this more. By the way, you can see like how different it is. I mean, it seems like we messed up with proportions, although this one doesn't have a proper proportions either. This is my version of the proportions. If I actually will try to overlap it, I don't believe that it's going to look right. So let's just try to do that though. I kind of want to see how it looks. So let's just try to put it in the 50%. Try to put it on top of it and see how close I was. Yep, yeah, I messed up pretty much. So the eye, kind of in a pretty close position. So you see the difference? I mean, the difference is pretty big. And what I'm doing right now, it's a little bit more proportionally oriented. Right here I made his mouth a little bit higher. So in terms of the proportions, I definitely messed up a lot. But it was like not the idea to get the proportions right. And again, I didn't thought that it's going to be some type of a finished result. I just tested things. So yeah. And what are we doing here with these two? With this, it's a little bit more closer to what CM Punk looks like. So like throughout the session we basically worked on proportions, and I guess we established the base of them, and it looks weird at this point, but once we will put down the actual colors and values and contrasts, it will start to make sense a little bit better, and it's actually a little bit more closer to how he actually looks like, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's it for this part of the session. Or for the session overall. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, have a nice day or night, and see you in the next session. Next session of course is going to be next week. Hopefully nothing is going to change. Next week we're going to talk about 1000th episode of SmackDown. It's going to be an interesting, definitely something interesting going to be on Raw, I believe. Maybe, yeah. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff, so a lot of things to talk about. So, and hopefully till the next session I will get this project to a certain level, and if not, we will continue where we left off. Again, there's nowhere to rush. We need to go slower, and it's completely fine. It's better for you to choose your own personal pace of working with things. Of course, you still want to be efficient, but efficiency, it's not all about speed. It's all about what you will gain from it. The more you will gain from it, it doesn't matter how much time you will spend on it. It needs to worth it. And for me, it doesn't matter how much time I'm spending on it. I'm learning tons from it. So yeah, that's it. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Have a nice day or night, and see you in the next session. Bye. Body says goodbye too.